My name is Tiffany, and I would love for you to empathize with me. Um, I've already talked about the grace of God, so
Mm-hmm.
I can reemphasize that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, being in it, I remember Googling nervous breakdown. I remember actually Googling, like, what is a nervous breakdown? Because that's what I felt like I was having. And Google is, knows everything. So I was like, okay, wait, because and now that I've done a little more studying about trauma and trauma response and the brain, the impact on the brain and nervous system and all of that, I can look back and be like, dang. But I didn't know that. Even though I was doing social services and youth development work, I
Wow.
didn't look at me and be like, that was a traumatic experience. You need to process this in a healthy way. I did try grief counseling, and it was not effective, um, because I knew how to show up. I'm okay. Yeah, this happened to
Mm.
me. And
Mm-hmm.
so they took that as it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I basically, I did start digging to try to find out what is happening, what is this. I did seek counseling, and the biggest aha moment was when my therapist, beautiful, beautiful mentor, friend that I love, she did a timeline, a 10-year timeline of my life, and basically we marked all these big changes, shifts, things that have happened in my life over the past 10 years. And she was like, yeah, like, this is not a normal lifeline. Like, it's okay. This is why it's okay for you to not be okay. And I was like, I never looked at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it was a trauma response
Mm-hmm.
to fall into, particularly because I had suppressed the grief, didn't know how to grieve. So I just kept being and doing. The depression was dark. Um, the anxiety was so intense that I could not even hear my children's voices. Like, hearing them call for me was triggering. Like, I was so sensitive. Any stimulus was like, everything was too much. That's why I spent a lot of time in solitude, in the dark, and literally like chasing the moon. I would find a parking lot and just sit and stare at the sky, like, for solace, because I could find quiet, and I could also somehow find my creator in the sky for a moment. And then ultimately, community, having people I could talk to, having people I could be around who saw me, like, didn't see the mask but saw me. And I didn't even know I was wearing a mask, but they could see around it and be like, there you are. And I'm like, oh, what? Oh. Was I hiding? I didn't know. So being around loving community was huge. Finding those spaces, being in creative spaces where nobody's judging you, finding those kind of spaces where nobody is like expecting anything from you. um, Journaling, writing, like, regularly, daily, every moment, reading scripture, praying. Then I started practicing meditation and yoga to move my body, to actually tap into my breath and to speak affirmation to myself. Spending time in nature, like, all of those things were my menu of self-care, and it became more and more intentional as I did it. It was like, oh, that felt great. Let me do that again, because it's not harming anyone and it's helping me. So that's how I ended up really allowing God to move me through the experience of depression and anxiety. I can say now that I no longer experience the symptoms of depression and anxiety in that way. The worst panic attack I ever had, I was able to get my therapist to come to my house, and because I couldn't even move, and she helped me catch my breath. Like, she really helped me find my center in that moment. And I had to let a lot of things go, and that's really what happened too. It's like all the things that crowded my life, I had to eventually be like, okay, I need to set some boundaries and actually leave room for myself.